Good afternoon, YouTubers. Welcome back. For those of you new to the channel, my name is Ben and this is the gluten-free kitchen. Today I'm going to be making a tart tartin. I used to love that when I was younger. It's a very French, very traditional dish. It's just caramel, apple and pastry, upside down, baked in the oven. When you flip it out, it's got a very lovely layer on top and it tastes delicious. First thing I need to do, over here, I've got around about 50 grams of butter, just gently melting. I prefer using muscovado sugar, very dark, very treacly, very rich. Again, everyone's tastes are different. You can use light brown sugar, but basically what we're after is 2 heaped dessert spoons of that mixed in with the butter. I'm just going to leave this just to try and melt down, and that's going to make the basis of this tart tartin and the caramel topping. So I'm just mixing that up. That's going to melt down. So let's leave that for a few minutes. Over here I've got the basis ready for my pastry. I don't need much pastry for this. I've got 100 grams of flour. Into that I've put 35 grams of sugar, and I'm using my xanthiam gum again. This is the binder which helps bring the pastry together, brings the flour together and acts as a substitute for the gluten. I've put probably 1/4 of a teaspoon in there. All of that into my mixer. 100 grams of flour, so it's going to be 50 grams of fat, and this is the pastry butter. Into the mixer, top on. And that's my fine breadcrumbs. That's my fine breadcrumbed pastry mix. As I say, it may seem a little bit of an extravagance just using this machine to make one item. I've actually made 2 or 3 during this video, just to get the money's worth out of putting it in the dishwasher. Normally I'd make 200 grams of flour. I normally use around about 70 millilitres of water. For this I probably might need a little bit more, so I'm going to be using around about half as much, so 40 millilitres. Again, I'm not going to pour all the water in just in case. Flour's very, very difficult to work with the moisture as well. It may absorb quicker, it may absorb slower, may absorb more, may absorb less. Again, you're just going to have to find out with your flour and just do trial and error and what works for you. So in with almost all of that water, and again, just bringing the flour together, starting off with a spoon. As soon as I can see that coming together, just in with the hands. If it feels a little bit wet, which this one does, small amount of flour, sprinkle over, work it in. And again, by trial and error with yourselves, you'll work out what works for yourselves. And there we go. Move that bowl aside. I'm just going to pop it back in the fridge. About 5 or 10 minutes just to help it settle. In the meantime, I'm just going to finish off the apples and the cream sauce. Just make sure this is all mixed together nicely. You can see that lovely dark colour, the bubbles from the butter. That's going to mix in with my pastry, cover those apples, caramelise them up really nicely and add that lovely flavour. Turn that on. Over here I've got around about 4 or 5 large green cooking apples, very sweet, very tart. Had those soaking in lemon juice. I'm just going to cut those up, ready to go in the pan. So again, just give my sauce one last mix. Here's my apples. The first time I made this at college, we had to be very precise. We had to have the apples cut very much into quarters. This I'm making at home. I love apple in this. I'm putting as much as I can in. And again, personal taste, personal preferences. Put as much or as little apple as you want it. Just going to give that a slight mix up, start getting that heat running through the apple. A few of you may have noticed these apples are uncooked, and that's exactly what I want. These are very thinly sliced. I didn't want the effort and the time of having to dirty another pan, spend another 5 or 10 minutes waiting for the apples to cool down. These are very thinly sliced. These are going to cook in that oven once that pastry lid goes on. There we go, nicely coated. Now to roll out the pastry. Make sure the surface is floured. And again, just to help, I've got a little template there to measure out. And again with pastry, to ensure it doesn't stick, roll a little, move, roll a little, move. I can see the top is just getting a little bit wet. A bit more flour, on the pastry. For those of you who've seen me making pastry before, my little tool just to help me lift it up. That's roughly getting there. That's about perfect. That's about fitting. And again, I'm going to be tucking the edges of this pastry tight against my oven ready pan. Making sure that's nice and tight. Now on this one, normally with pastry, with any sort of pie, I put a couple of slits in to let the steam out. But what I want is this apple to steam. I want it to poach in those sugary, treacly sauce. And I want it to take on those flavours. I want to get this pastry infused with that apple and sugar flavouring. I've got my oven on. That's around about 180 degrees. And I just put that in there. And I'm going to come back in about 20-25 minutes just to check on how that pastry is cooking. That's both items in the oven. They've had about 25 minutes just to cook through. Let's get that tart tatin out. Look at that. And you can just see in the corner all that sugar, the butter, the liquid from those apples if they've poached underneath this pastry lid, just bubbling away. That's going to be lovely. Just going to put that at the back there. That's going to need to cool down before I try and turn it out.